we right now have, in the most recent 12-month period, 110,000 deaths from illegal drug overdoses. I'll ask Mr. Dillon, could he comment on those deaths and which drugs in particular you think are responsible for the 110,000?
Which drugs are most responsible?
Yeah.
Opioids is a general category, so that would include synthetic opioids such as fentanyl and natural opioids such as heroin, and prescription drugs, prescription opioids. That group together is responsible for the vast majority of the overdoses.
I'm told right now fentanyl is the biggest of the bunch. Is that
Absolutely, that is correct.
And where do those drugs come from?
Largely, they come from Mexico. The drugs are imported either as fentanyl into Mexico and then brought by the cartels across our southwest border, or precursor chemicals come from China into Mexico. The drug cartels then manufacture the fentanyl and bring it across the southwest border.
Okay, I was told by my local DEA guy that he thought maybe 100% of the deaths in Mexico came from fentanyl brought across the southern border. I mean, 540, could all 540, but that's what he speculated.
Yeah, that is probably, I always hesitate to say 100%, but there is virtually no, that I know of, illicit fentanyl manufacturing occurring in the U.S. It is almost entirely in foreign countries and then brought into the U.S.
Could you comment? I mean, I was down on the border last week, and it's so frustrating to see 110,000 deaths and nobody seemingly caring very much. Because you would figure as a minimum, we'd begin to try to cut off the spigot, and actually things are going the opposite way right now. We have less drugs being captured because the Border Patrol is busy doing other things. Could you comment on our efforts being made to stem the tide of drugs across the southern border? It seems like it goes up 80,000, 90,000, 100,000, 110,000, the less we guard the border. Could you comment on that?
Well, I want to say that the men and women of the Border Patrol and Customs and Border Protection, I know, are doing their very best. They are overwhelmed. I view the border at this point as essentially an unguarded border, and the cartels are aware of that. They actually plan at times to surge migrants to the border so that they can take Customs and Border Patrol off the line. So I believe at this point, large swaths of our southwest border are essentially unprotected, allowing for anybody, drug traffickers, human traffickers, terrorists, to cross our border at will and enter into the United States.
Can you say we as a government care about the 110,000 who died last year and still have an open border?
I believe that once, in my view, establishing border policy, immigration policy, one cannot ignore national security. And national security, a part of that is looking at how these drug cartels are affecting and killing our citizens. So in my view, it is impossible to have to have a drug or a border policy that doesn't also take into account national security.
Ultimately, people should go to prison or suffer some penalty for that, I would think. Some people consider sales or trafficking in fentanyl or other deadly drugs nonviolent crimes. Do you consider that nonviolent?
I could not disagree more with that contention. You have over 100,000 Americans were murdered by drug traffickers last year. That is violence. Talk to any individual who's lost a family member. Look in their eyes and you will see the pain. This is a violent crime. This is not a victimless crime. Drug trafficking has created
Do you think we should increase the mandatory minimums on fentanyl? Right now, you have to have more fentanyl than heroin to get the mandatory.
We absolutely should be increasing the mandatory minimum on fentanyls. I'm a firm believer in mandatory minimums for drug traffickers, and I believe that the fentanyl mandatory minimums should be increased. Incarceration works, putting drug traffickers in jail works. Right now, we have overdose deaths because the supply is high. The only way to attack the supply is to seize those drugs and put the traffickers in jail.